It's December again. Somehow. You could swear January was a few weeks ago. Your parents warned you this would happen, and you didn't believe them. And now, here you are, doing the exact thing they did, wondering where the year went. Here's the part nobody tells you. This isn't a memory problem. It isn't nostalgia. And it isn't you getting old and soft in the head. There is actual math behind why this year felt shorter than the one before it, and the year before that felt shorter than the one before that. It's exact, it's calculable, and once you see the number, you can't unsee it. In the 1890s, a French philosopher named Paul Janet proposed something almost embarrassingly simple. He said we don't experience a year as a fixed unit of time. We experience it as a fraction of the life we've already lived. When you were 5, 1 year was 1/5 of your entire existence. Every single year was a massive, sprawling chunk of everything you'd ever known. That's why a single summer at age 7 could feel like it lasted forever. Because it kind of did. It was 10% of your whole life compressed into 3 months. Now do the math on where you are today. If you're 30, this year is 1/30th of your life. If you're 50, it's 1/50th. The year itself hasn't changed. It's still 365 days, same as always. But the size of it, relative to everything you've already lived through, keeps shrinking. You're not imagining the acceleration. You're living inside a fraction that keeps getting smaller, forever, for the rest of your life. Think back to an actual school summer. 10, 11 weeks, and somehow that felt like an entire era. You started it as one version of yourself and ended it as someone slightly different, with a whole saga in between. Now think about the last 11 weeks of your adult life. Can you even separate them into a story? Or did they fold into one continuous smear you'd struggle to summarize in a sentence? Same 11 weeks. Same planet, same physics. Completely different size, because you were measuring it against a completely different denominator. But the fraction alone doesn't explain everything, because you already know this from experience. Some entire years vanish, and some single afternoons stretch out and stay with you for decades. So there has to be more going on than just division. This is where it gets interesting. Back in 1890, the psychologist William James, one of the founders of modern psychology, wrote something that still holds up perfectly today. He said that in youth, we have an almost constant stream of new experience, and that new experience gets remembered in vivid, intricate detail. But as the years go on, our days start to resemble each other. And when days resemble each other, the brain stops bothering to lay down a rich memory of each one. Why would it? Nothing new happened. So it compresses the whole stretch down to almost nothing. Think about your actual memory of last Tuesday. Not a special Tuesday, just an ordinary one. You probably can't find it. It's gone, folded into a blur of every other ordinary Tuesday you've had this year. Compare that to a random Tuesday from a trip you took, somewhere new, years ago. You probably remember exactly where you were standing. That's the mechanism. Novelty is what makes the brain hit record. Routine is what makes it skip the take entirely. And most adult life, if we're honest, is routine. Same commute, same rooms, same 15 minutes of your phone before bed. Your brain has less and less new material to work with, so it files away less and less, so when you look back, there's less there to look back at. A thin year feels like it barely happened, because as far as your memory is concerned, it barely did. There's a stranger piece of evidence for this, and it comes from the opposite direction entirely. The neuroscientist David Eagleman spent years studying what happens to time perception in genuinely terrifying moments. The kind people describe as slow motion, a car crash, a fall. He put volunteers through a controlled free fall and asked them to read a rapidly flickering display on the way down, one too fast to read under normal conditions. If time really slowed down for them, they should have been able to read it. They couldn't. What actually happens in danger isn't that time slows down. It's that the brain, flooded with adrenaline, records far more detail than usual, every single frame of it. Afterward, when you play that dense recording back, it feels like it must have taken longer than it did. Which means the exact same mechanism that makes a boring Tuesday vanish is the mechanism that makes 3 seconds of falling feel like 30. More detail recorded, more duration felt, whether that detail comes from wonder or from fear. Here's the twist though, and it's the part almost nobody expects. The British psychologist Claudia Hammond has studied this exact effect in ordinary life, not danger, and she calls it the holiday paradox. If you've ever taken a trip somewhere completely new, you already know the first half of it. While you're there, time moves fast. Too fast. You blink, and you're already at the airport again. But then, weeks later, when you think back on that same trip, it feels like it lasted far longer than it actually did. Longer, sometimes, than the entire ordinary month that followed it. The same novelty that speeds time up while it's happening is the exact thing that slows it down in memory afterward. It's not a contradiction. It's two different clocks running at once. One clock is running live in the moment, and new experiences make that clock spin faster because you're too busy taking everything in to notice time passing. The other clock only gets checked later, when you look back, and that clock runs on how much material got recorded. More novelty, more recorded material, longer the memory feels in hindsight. Less novelty, almost nothing gets filed, and the whole stretch collapses down to a shrug. So the version of you at 25, backpacking somewhere unfamiliar, eating something you've never eaten, getting lost on purpose, wasn't just having more fun. That version of you was laying down thick, dense memory, the kind that makes a single month feel, years later, like it was somehow bigger than it should have been. And the version of you at 35, driving the same road to the same job, eating the same 3 meals on rotation, isn't remembering less because nothing mattered. You're remembering less because nothing was different enough to keep. Look at your last 12 months honestly, not the highlight reel you'd post, the actual texture of it. How many of those months could you separate from each other if someone asked you to put them in order without checking a calendar? For a lot of people, adult life quietly turns into 3 or 4 genuinely distinct memories a year, surrounded by hundreds of days that never got filed anywhere at all. That's not a character flaw. That's exactly what a brain is supposed to do when nothing new is coming in. It's supposed to stop wasting storage on a rerun. None of this is really about time at all. Time is doing exactly what it's always done, 1 second after another, completely indifferent to you. What's actually changing is the ratio, and what's actually thinning out is the novelty. Both of those are outside your control in one sense and completely inside your control in another. You can't stop a year from being a smaller fraction of your life than the last one, but you can absolutely control how much new material goes into it. A new route home instead of the usual one. A conversation with a stranger you'd normally avoid. A restaurant you've walked past for years and never gone into. None of it needs to be a trip across the world. It just needs to be different enough that your brain decides it's worth keeping. So it's December again. Somehow. And it feels like January was a few weeks ago. But now you know exactly why. Your brain didn't lose the year. It just didn't have enough new footage to make the year feel like it happened. The number of days was never the problem. The math was never lying to you. The only real question left is what you're going to put into next year's fraction.